The question posed is, so in a nutshell, you don't believe the last administration had anything to do with the high inflation, question mark. No, I didn't say that. The majority of the inflation was not due to the last administration. Listen, putting together bills like the first stimulus package, or the stimulus package that he made when he first came into office, which was the third stimulus package in total, that added to inflationary measures. It always does when the government does that. But a majority of the inflation that we saw was a result of a massive disruption in the supply chain due to COVID and the corporate greed that resulted when that wave finally crashed, right? So my question to you is this. Do you think Joe Biden caused global inflation? Because inflation was not isolated to the United States of America. It was global. And it was global all at the same time. We were hit with a pandemic. There was a massive disruption in the supply chain. Why was there a massive disruption in the supply chain? Well, because when COVID shut the world down, people started spending their money differently. No longer were they going to a ball game or to the movies or out to dinner or to a comedy club. They were buying stuff and having it shipped into their house, right? So that caused a massive spike in the need for more containers coming in the United States, more hours worked at the ports unloading those ships, more trucks and more people working on the train lines to move all of that product across the United States of America, from my perspective, but the world, essentially. So there was this massive disruption in the supply chain, and containers went from something like, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but they went from like, it cost $2,000 to get a container in the United States to it cost $20,000 to get a container in the United States because of the demand. Inflation, right? High price, everything spikes. Then when we came out of that, the companies that didn't make out, the companies that weren't importing things, that just saw a loss while COVID was going on, they jacked their prices up. When we started going back out to eat, prices got jacked up. When we started going back to the movies, prices got jacked up. Those people missed out on their business for however long of a period of time they were shut down and business was bad, right? All of those companies jacked their prices up. But they never brought them back down. They jacked their prices up because they temporarily lost business. Never mind the fact that they made billions in profits before the pandemic. During the pandemic, they lost. So after the pandemic, they wanted to make up for their losses, and they jacked the prices up. And we paid for it. Yes, I want to go to the movies. Yes, I want to go out to eat. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. And if we're paying those inflated prices, there's no reason for them to bring them down. That's what capitalism is all about. So we had the supply chain disruption and corporate greed that contributed mostly to it. Part of this inflation was the spending that occurred at the beginning of the Biden administration. But then let me ask you a question. If that's the case, if one round of stimulus helped cause inflation, didn't two rounds of stimulus at the end of the Trump administration also contribute to the same inflation? Or does it not contribute to inflationary measures when a Republican spends? I'm just asking. And once again, did Joe Biden cause global inflation? No, he didn't. And you know he didn't. You know that inflation, the supply chain issues were global, the corporate greed was global, still is global, and the inflation has been global. As a matter of fact, of all of the industrialized nations, we had some of the lowest inflation, even though we had inflation. But if you're saying that Joe Biden is the reason why we had inflation, then what you're telling me is that Joe Biden caused global inflation. And if your assertion is that Joe Biden caused global inflation, then I'm sorry, we have nothing else to talk about.